here we go.
All right, you guys ready? Let's kick off this thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the strategy inside the game of Overwatch. This week, we're doing just like we always do, going trial and error, testing things in the lab. Sometimes they get crazy, sometimes things blow up, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. This week is episode 88, and we are talking about a brand new strategy series that Andres had the idea to start, called the Strat Brewing. This is basically where Andres and I break down some strats that come up to our minds, sometimes as a follow-up to synergize with some topics we had with our hosts and guests. Our guests that we had in the past, previous weeks, or just when we're not able to land a guest, we're going to try to do this as kind of just our series without a guest. And this week we got one called Reading the Battle. So we're going to be covering that, and Andres is going to be spearheading this one. But before we start, let's meet the host. I'm your host, Rob May, coming in from Rising Sun, Southern Japan, where even though it doesn't snow very often, aka like 3 times a year, this week it snowed 3 times this week. So it's pretty chilly. But let's see how it's going over in Georgia with your resident McCree main, Andres. What's up, Andres?
What's up? It's your weather is almost like Georgia over here. One day it snows, then the next day is like sunny outside, then the next day is a thunderstorm, then there might be a tornado somewhere. Like you actually never know.
Jeez. Yeah. So we're actually recording about midnight, pretty close to, actually we're at like 1:20 a.m. for you, right?
It's pretty early over here, or pretty late, depending on how you see it.
Yeah, we're recording really late because we had a absolutely insane game night on that Friday night. We couldn't record on the Friday morning because we had a kind of guest planning stuff kind of fall through, so we're trying to get something organized for this week. And then going to the next morning, Andres's power is just like noped right out of that. So I don't know what is going on, but we are going to get this show to you one way or another this week.
We are going to make it happen, guys.
All right. So a little heads update for you guys. If you want to head over to our game nights, we are just going to do a quick recap of what happened on the 26th. We had one of, if not the largest game night I have ever seen. We almost peaked out into 4 lobbies, which means I would have had to create a 4th lobby, channels, and all of that jazz for you guys to play. But wow, so many people, and this is just PC alone. We had enough for 3 separate teams for our PlayStation lobby, according to my mods and admin. And we haven't gotten reports back from our Xbox community, but I would assume that they are so out of commission from having fun that they haven't got back to us yet. Yeah, the lobbies have been fantastic. People were growing. We rolled out a feedback form that you can fill out now to let us know how we can improve. And I've been working with Icy, one of our mods, on some rules and regulations to help standardize it and get some more people housing lobbies, and maybe breaking off into some deathmatch if people want to do that. So, Andres, you want to talk about your experience at all? I had a blast. I ran a lobby for about 7 hours. That was not the easiest thing in the world, let me tell you.
Yeah, this was one of the longest game nights that we've had. I wasn't there for as long as you were, even though I know some of the guys went for super long. Now, guys like Shockmaster also said it's probably the longest he's ever gone. He even went for double cup of coffee, which, whew, that guy already doesn't need coffee, and you can imagine him going for double cup. But it was really fun. We had a ton of feedback. A lot of it super positive. There was a couple things here and there that people want us to improve. A couple of them being balancing the teams. I hope that you guys understand that doing it live and meeting so many people that are new and not knowing what everyone's power level is or what they like playing, who they synergize with, it's really hard right off the gate to get that balance right, especially because we're not algorithm machines over here just pumping numbers and being like, oh, right. Oh, this works here, this works there.
All the Hanzo mains.
We're doing everything by feel, and it's honestly part of the fun, right? Seeing what works and what doesn't. I know that eventually some games end up being one-sided, but honestly, I take it as a learning experience, right? You get to see why some players are being good over others. I think that overall, most players are pretty embracing. A lot of them, eventually, once you've been playing in the same lobby, you kind of get a feel for what's going on, and you can kind of balance the teams a little bit better. our mods did a great job this time around. Thank you so much, guys like Icy, Yanthrax, Boom was also there last night. Shock was helping organize the lobby. All of you guys did a fantastic job. And you guys really, really make this event super, super fun, as well as everyone who joined. If you guys haven't joined one of the game nights, I definitely recommend it. Every time they become a little bit better, a little more organized. People know what to do, what to expect. I know that here and there's a little salt involved in some of the lobbies. And please, one thing to notice, games can get heated sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're playing among friends. The way I see it is if you lose a game, a friend won a game. So there's honestly no losing. And at the end of the day, we're all in the same team. Help other people improve. Don't get frustrated at them. We're all playing at super different levels, but at the end, we're all part of the same friendly, loving community that honestly just wants to improve at this game and meet other people who want to do the same.
Absolutely. I'll close the discussion by saying, in my lobby that I was running was one of the most fun I've had because we had people pick Blizzard World 3 times so that I had to choose, like, you can't play a certain map anymore. Getting frustrated playing that map too much. But my first game, I had a bunch of people in the game lobby that I didn't know. And that was one of the first times I'd been in game night where I didn't know more people than I knew in my lobby. Mm-hmm. And then I look up and you and Icy and all the admin are in one chat. I was like, what is this? All of the admin are playing and I get left out? Come on.
That happened near the end of the night. When I joined, there was, I think, just Icy and me. But yeah, there was that one point that the whole crew was there. And it was really fun.
It was just super fun.
A lot of people were really liking playing with Yantrax, actually. Shout out to him for doing some amazing callouts. That guy was on fire with those callouts, and I think a lot of people noticed and they enjoyed playing his team because who doesn't like playing a team where they got some crystal clear callouts, not like what I just said.
Yeah, I had some similar things with my group because there was one game where we were playing and I literally chose my entire team by choosing one other person who played support, and then I chose 4 diva mains on purpose to see how it would go. It was one of the most funny teams that I had. So shout out to Jan Jankel and Silver Loki for helping us out with all of the diva plays. But let's keep things moving. We got an Omnic meta coming your way. I'm excited to see the new Overwatch League power rankings. He had season 1, stage 1, week 2 power rankings. So I can imagine he's going to try to do this every week or every other week for some power rankings based off of an algorithm, which is really interesting. You're definitely want to check that out if you like Overwatch League. And don't forget about the Overwatch League sister show. The Overwatch League recap is OWL recap on Twitter, and definitely check that out for some of the recap on the games coming up this following week. And we have our sponsor of the show, Ben W, aka I Need Peeling. He's offering some more consulting for free business consulting for the esports field. If you're aspiring as a coach, you want to start as a team, you want to develop an app, or you want to make a service, you just want to boost your subscriber base, you just want to work in esports, you can do all of those things. You can ask him about them at his website, topscoresolutions.com, or find him on Twitter at topscoreesports. He also has his own Discord server you can find as a link on his website and on the Twitter. Ben is a master's in sports management and also has extensive business marketing experience. So this guy knows his stuff. We trust him. He's been with us for a while, and I've talked with him personally. He's a great guy. Definitely highly recommend checking him out and all of his different means of consulting, because there's a lot of things in there. Let me tell you.
He's a great consultant. I've talked with him. He has a very soothing voice, and he is also a very friendly person. So if you guys are looking for this type of services, take advantage of it. The guy is here. They're free as long as he can handle the demand. So yeah, go for it.
All right, and then our last bit of sponsorships here is going to our Diamond supporters on Patreon. Special thanks to Chris DePlaya, Good Apollo, Golden Soldier A, Great Root Bear, Kip with 5 P's, Lysame, or Lisam, I think that's how he said, Lisam. Magic, Matt R is actually changed this week to Jan Jinkle, who is my partner in crime in ranked this last week. We climbed like 200 points together. It was fantastic. We also have Never Clutch, Ricky Ticky, Shazir, and Tragic Zach. And we have a new patron this week, Timothy O. Thank you guys so much for support. It actually helps us so much. We had a lot of fluctuations, still do. And anytime we get new members, anytime we get people moving up or down, we understand. But it does help us out. Still looking to do some investments on mobile recording units when we go to BlizzCon. I'm still looking to get to BlizzCon, and a lot of it's contingent on how this stuff pans out. So really appreciate it. We won't belabor the point anymore. But let's get into our pre-strategy talk by talking about one of the best games of Overwatch that you're going to want to watch is twofold. One game we're probably not going to be talking about at length, but the other one we will. The one game that we're not talking about at length, but you'll definitely want to go watch is LA Gladiators versus LA Valiant. That match was nail-biting every single round. And you're definitely going to watch how they shift strategies and change people in and out. Hero pick rates, positioning, lots of good things to go learn there from commentators and just watching different players. The one we want to talk about this time is the grudge match, the who is number one in Korea match. We have NYXL versus SEOUL Dynasty, the match to end all matches with the biggest hitters out there. Andres, break us into talking about this here.
Ooh, what a match. I think if you haven't watched it, you should definitely go watch it. Like just go watch it. We'll wait. Don't worry, we'll wait.
Oh, we'll wait. Did you finish?
All right. Are you guys good? You guys watch it? All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
What a incredible match. The gods have bled. The giants have been defeated. Goliath fell to David. Well, not necessarily David. Goliath fell to another Goliath. Let's be honest here. This was a battle of the Titans. What a fantastic match. Went down to the very last map. 5 maps. This was down to the knit. I'll give it to you, though. New York Excelsior pulling off one of their best performances so far in the league and totally defeating SEOUL Dynasty. We just couldn't see it happening, right? We've said it so many times. Oh, SEOUL Dynasty is just too good. They can't be beaten. And we've heard rumors in like the back alleys. No, they can't be beaten. Some teams are good enough, mainly made up of other Koreans, but they are good enough. And we just saw it. It happened. What do you think, Rob? What was your highlight of the match?
So I was talking, actually, I watched the final 2.5 maps, I guess, with Switch, one of our admin, the guy that hosts Omnic Meta. And not only did his algorithm predict that New York would win this match, but both of us said that we had a 95% kind of like gut feeling that New York was going to walk away with a win in the 5th match. And the most interesting thing was not only did SEOUL lose this match to New York, going into this game, New York had previously lost to Philly, who is one of the 2 teams in the league that is the streakiest, has shown the capability they can lose or win against anyone, including beating Houston and nearly losing to Shanghai the next day, right after beating New York. But New York beat SEOUL on control twice. And that sounds kind of like, okay, cool. They beat him in the control. You guys, SEOUL's first 4 games where they've gone like 4-0, 3-1, 2-1 type victories, they have not lost on control even one time. And these games were absolutely insane. You saw hero switches. You saw people not playing Pharah and playing a soldier into Pharah on SEOUL just so that, or SEOUL, so they could actually take down Libero from the air. And then you see the next game where they don't run the Pharah on New York and they run a Genji. And it's just like they have these just insane strategies that they're trying to run. And both teams basically not running the pirate ship after more than a couple seconds on Junkertown, which was impressive to see this double flanking Aussie strategy where they run both Roadhog and Junkrat with a Widowmaker. And they have like these double flanks with a long sight line for both Widows to have this fight and an Orisa. And it's just like the nuttiest games that you can watch in Overwatch, man. It was so good to watch these strategies play out.
It was really crazy to watch. shout out to players like Jonak from the New York Excelsior side. I think that Jonak, there's a Niata player, was a super huge deciding factor. And it's so interesting watching how Zenyatta has taken the role almost of a third DPS in the top teams of the league. Zenyatta's such a powerful hero, and when you see Jonak, you would see the kill feed, and it was Dynasty winning, and then all of a sudden, it was Jonak, triple kill on the kill feed. Never mind, New York Excelsior still in the fight. This is not over. And to be completely honest, they had Dynasty on the ropes several times in the maps. I would say that New York Excelsior was the top team in this match. Players like Sabiobi and Jonak were just on fire and were in the zone. You could just see Sabiobi moving like the freaking Flash, dude. He moves so fast. He aims so fast. It's like watching Overwatch in 2 times speed sometimes when you're watching Sabiobi play. It's like, is this the same game that I play? It seems so much slower when I play it.
I was talking with somebody in the viewing party for this, so we actually stopped our game lobby to go watch this game. Like, that's how hyped this game was, okay? And furthermore, I was talking with somebody who goes by the tag Brit, or Brit M or something like that in our Discord, a fairly new member that was very talkative in the channel, but actually speaks 3 languages, and one of them was Korean, and said that Shonak is pronounced more of like a soft CH sound, mixed with like a J. Is how you pronounce the 2 J's together. And
Shonak?
said that it's like CH and J mixed together, like a hybrid. It's really weird.
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that.
It's like Shonak, maybe. Or
Shonak.
Shonak, I think is how you say it. But basically, Shonak, she said, means basically like I love octopus, like to eat. And the double J, like 1 J shows that like you like it, but double J, she's like, I freaking love octopus.
Oh,
and
nice.
Like, it's just like a super dedicated, like, F everything. I want octopus on my plate. Like, basically type of a,
the man knows what he likes. Zenyatta and octopus.
And then she was also saying that Sebiobi was a really interesting, like, actually like a phrase or is like a story of like the night and the dawn, like a really cool, like cutesy type way of saying it, like poetic thing, which is really kind of cool with his, you know, his love story with his wife, that they got married before he left to go to the Overwatch League. So very, very cool stories lines with those guys.
Awesome.
But I wanted to highlight this match this week because it is something that you can learn a lot from. You can watch positions, you can watch Mercies that play with Jonak to damage boost Zen volleys is actually an insane way to bust shields. You can see really good ways of playing Roadhog around an Orisa shield. You see a Orisa and a Roadhog jump up just above the shield to like get on the payload just a little bit. And that one frame, SEOUL Dynasty punished on Junkertown by ripping him off of the payload because he jumped over the shield. And it was just some insane Widow duels, like all of the things. But we want to make sure that you guys are aware when you're watching the Overwatch League, if you don't have any particular alliances, I highly recommend watching Boston and Philly at any time they play the game. Because Boston and Philly are some of the streakiest and most intriguing teams to watch right now based off of how inconsistent their win-loss record has become and how they've shown that they are easily bled by any team, but also can compete with anyone and can beat anyone because they beat the -- 1 team. So you actually see every team has at least 1 loss. New York lost to Philly and SEOUL lost to New York. So those are your 2 results. Big, these results are just nuts. And then you have games where Gladiators and Valiant are going toe-to-toe game after game, and people are touting Valiant as like the team below London Spitfire as being like the number 3rd team behind, you know, SEOUL and NYXL, it's the other Korean team, and Valiant nearly beats London. And then you have like London and Gladiators going toe to toe, and Gladiators almost beat Valiant. And then Houston comes over here and says, "Let's try this Gladiators roster," and 4-0s them. So you just see like these nuts results coming out from the woodwork this week. This is just a great year for Overwatch. You guys are definitely going to take advantage of watching some esports to learn.
Yeah, it's definitely a league that is heating up to be super interesting. Nothing is for certain right now. We have some teams that look to be the best, but honestly, the spots are still anyone's to take, except maybe you, Shanghai. I love you guys. I really want to see you succeed, but I just gotta see more from you guys. At least a win, guys.
They almost beat Philly.
That's true.
Almost.
That's
and
true.
they got
They're
a
coming
win
back.
off of SEOUL with their
they-
subs.
They're coming back just a little bit, but they had a rough start.
After the signing window, I think we're going to see the league shuffle quite a bit. We got a signing window and a big patch update. I think the league's power rankings are basically reset at 0, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's almost like stage 2 is gonna be a whole different league.
It's a whole new league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the main segment. Hopefully, Andres and I will remember to give you guys a timestamp for this one. We're going to try to make sure that's a regular thing. But this week, strategy talk, we're going to strat brew, and we're going to talk about reading a battle. Andres, kick us off.
All right, guys. This is a topic that I really wanted to discuss, especially from the game nights. I think that one of the most requested things from the game nights and from the feedback sheet as well is, hey, when I join the games, I want to hear other players give me some advice, or I want to hear other players do a shot call. I want to hear other players strategize with me. I'm not too sure what to do here and there. I'm not too sure how to react. And I want some help in that department. So basically, instead of just having somebody else tell you what to do and guide you through a thing, it's like that saying, teach a man to fish and he'll have food for the rest of his life kind of thing. It's kind of like the same thing. We want to teach you maybe how to read a battle, maybe different points in a battle, and how to react to those different points and why, to kind of give you a roadmap or a plan on how you should approach battles and different stages of them, what you should be looking out for. Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have like a roadmap to battling itself. And when we say battle, we mean when both teams clash to try to kill each other. Plain and simple.
AKA like a team fight or getting picks or something like that.
Yeah, team fight. That's another word for battle. Team fights. Let's get it right into it. Before we go into actually the battles themselves, there are certain tools that can really help you orient yourself in the battle, read the battle, not be super lost, know what other people are doing. You don't have to rely on just what's on your screen directly to know what is happening around you. And knowing how to use these tools appropriately can really increase your awareness, and because of that, your battling skills. The first one,
a lot of this is going to overlap with our previous 2 shows with Baymax and Jardio and who's the other one? Wow, totally. The aiming guide. I'm major brain farting. Wow, I feel like such a terrible host.
Reddit
I'm
guy.
gonna find it. You keep going.
Yeah.
Jardio, shotgunning with Baymax, and advanced aiming with Burdock. There you
go. Burdock.
I did not forget you, Burdock. You're the man.
We only got to meet Burdock for very little, so his name will stick with us, though. All right, let's get right into it. The very first tool, and the most obvious one, the kill feed. This is a fantastic tool because it gives you immediate feedback of who just got killed and who got the kill. Plain and simple. Learn how to use it. Learn how to check it at a glance. The faster that you can look at it and know what is happening, the better. The more that you practice the skill, the faster you're going to get. You don't have to analyze the kill feed for a long time. You just mostly have to see that the kill feed is hopefully blue. So that means you're winning the battle. If the kill feed is red, then things are not looking that good. You want to get good at reading all of this and being able to analyze key picks right away. It's not only enough to just see, Widowmaker got a pick, but who did she pick? Because this can really influence how you approach the battle, what angle you approach the battle, the timings that you use, what cooldowns you blow, for example. Like if your Widowmaker just picked the Mercy, is not the same as your Widowmaker picking the Torbjorn turret, for example. The next one that I want to move on to is the chevrons above players' heads. This is another great tool to really orienting yourself around your team and knowing where teammates are, even if you can't directly see them because there's objects or obstacles in between you and your teammate. Basically, the chevrons allow you to know anywhere they're at. If you're able to learn the maps on top of that and you have a very good knowledge of the nooks and crannies of every map, it's very easy to have an estimate or of where they're at any time. You want to say something here? Oh, no, you were just coughing over there. I thought you were.
Sorry, I had to mute myself for a cough.
All right, the next one, very simple. Sound. Sound is also super, super important and is one of the things that advanced players use the most to their advantage, but is also one of the things that is the hardest to notice that they're using because there's no quick tell, right? As they are listening to stuff going around the battle and they're reacting to those things, sometimes it looks magical how good they can orient themselves in a battle or how good they can find other heroes, and you're like, wow, how is he able to keep up so well in the middle of the battle? And a big part of it is sound, being able to hear what heroes are to your left, to your right, behind you, maybe above you, what abilities they're using, what abilities just came off cooldown, for example. You can hear things like Helix rockets, you can hear Pharah rockets, you can hear Roadhog
Sonic
hooks.
arrows.
You can hear sonic arrows there. And if you learn how to recognize all these little nuances of sound, you can really give yourself an edge. To give you guys an example, and I'm going to pat my back over here a little bit, but it was a moment that I impressed myself with this moment. It was kind of one of those, whoa, that went well. I was playing Genji on a deathmatch map, and I was battling a Doomfist. And everybody knows how deathmatch works. You're in the middle of your battle, and some vulture, opportunistic dude just shows up out of nowhere and tries to get a double kill. And this is what was happening. I was battling the Doomfist, and this sneaky McCree came off to the corner, and he dead-eyed. I wasn't even looking in that direction. I was just battling the Doomfist, but I heard the dead-eye, and I knew that he was to my right. And because of the part of the map that we're fighting in Dorado, I had a pretty good idea of where he would be. Like there could only be two possible places. There was like two little doors, and only one of them kind of made sense. So I kept battling a Doomfist for like a split second, and then I just turned around, faced the door, and deflected. And sure enough, I got the kill on the McCree right at that time. And it was like this like next level 200 IQ kind of play. I was like, oh my God, I just got the kill. But it was totally based on sound. So really paying attention to those little sounds, even if you're not looking at them and you're not directly engaged with them, they can really give you an edge and help you orient in the middle of the battle. You want to add anything
I've been
here?
using this a lot. Because I've been watching a lot of Overwatch League, of course, and I've noticed that with like Winston's and sneaky tracers and sneaky roadhogs, they will do this thing like we mentioned within the aim guide where we talked a little bit about the crouch walk, and we talked about this a little bit within like crouching, removing a lot of your sound in the sound episode last year that we talked about. Definitely highly recommend go re-listen to that one about Overwatch sounds. We did like a breakdown where Andres was talking and giving some sound bites, and we try to figure out who's shooting and whose footsteps are whose, and you know what it is just by listening. We'd like to do a revisit of that sometime. It was a lot of fun to produce, but within the crouch walking, I found that like there's a certain cadence of the steps that you can actually time with your crouch button, where it actually will let you move kind of like half speed, but not like half speed as in you half speed while holding crouch, but just like hitting crouch when you would take a step. It removes the sound and lets you move a little faster.
Right.
And so I've been able to do this a lot with my tracer routes and get a lot of one clips. I one clipped like 2 Moiras during game night in the same match just from doing this one thing, and it was a lot of fun. I even got some poor friend of ours who was playing Widow against me. I had to keep going after her because she's killing my teammates, man. But I one clipped her twice and got the player to switch to McCree. They'll remain nameless, but it was one of those moments where you're like, man, this really works. And it works really well with Winston because he has that nice loud slapping sound with his palms.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really get the sneak on some people in the back line or approaching on a far left corner before you leap. It's just like the sounds in this game are so critical for learning position because you can hear direction with the sounds, not just what the sounds are, but the next level would then be figuring out where they're coming from. Where is the sonic arrow? Where is the firing coming from? Where are the steps above you, below you, behind you, to your left and above, etc.
Yeah. Using a good pair of headphones can sometimes help quite a bit because it gives you a better right and left kind of distinction, in my opinion. Or if you have a nicely placed pair of stereo speakers, that can also be helpful, but it's not as easy for detecting people behind you and the like. So I would say headphones is usually the way to go.
The best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. The next one, and this one is also very obvious, but I noticed that people don't do it at all sometimes. Just pressing tab and checking to see if anybody has an ultimate. You don't need to ask anybody. Nobody needs to press Z. You just literally press tab for 1 second and you see, oh, Zarya has Graviton. Oh, Lucio has his sound barrier. Roadhog has his whole hog. And this is super useful. I use it quite a bit when I'm playing solo queue or when I'm playing, for example, in the game nights. It's a quick way to organize your team and do a quick plan for the next fight. So if you're coming out of the point, you press tab and you see your Mercy has Valkyrie. You don't have the point, for example, maybe it's control or something. And you know that maybe their team doesn't have any ultimates either. So that Valkyrie might be like the only ultimate that's lingering there. You might tell your team, hey guys, this next fight, we're approaching with Valkyrie. Doesn't matter if like there's not even rests. Let's just use it for momentum. Let's go. Now you have a plan. You told your Mercy what you wanted to do. She has the ability to do it. Boom. Dunzo. Or if you're in defense, for example, you have maybe Roadhog Gold, Lucio ult, and a Graviton. You might not need a Graviton. It seems like too much to use. So you might just plan, hey guys, next fight, we're only going to use Roadhog hook. As soon as they're approaching, or Roadhog is going to use his ultimate and kind of mess up with their approach. Their speed boost might get messed up, or any abilities that they may be trying to fire might miss because Roadhog is pushing them. You get him off their feet kind of thing. You destabilize them before the push goes. You plan that with your Roadhog, and that was thanks to you pressing tab and being able to formulate that plan in your head because now you have the information. All right, the last one, communication, comms, just using comms. And I know this one is not up to you like the other ones, and that's why I want to place it last. But honestly, if you're playing competitive at a decent rank, or honestly at very many different ranks, it just depends on having players with the right mentality. But if you have a teammate that is doing communications the right way, is doing the right callouts, is giving you the correct information, it can be super, super helpful to help yourself know what the next step in the battle is, to help them, to know where the enemy team is. Crucial information can be just communicated quite fast, but it is a skill, and it's both on the giver and receiver's end. It is crucial that you develop the skill communicating. You want to be brief, you want to be to the point, you want to be only communicating things that will immediately help your team and keep opinions to a minimum. And as well, you want to be a good listener. It happens many times that actually somebody makes a good call, but people just kind of ignore the call and it kind of disappears into thin air. That's also quite bad to do. If you have people that are making good shot calls, make sure that you're listening to them because it can only improve your odds. Anything you want to add here?
We talked a lot about that at length with the shot calling episode, especially even if somebody makes a call, if they're the only person talking and everyone's listening, even if the call's bad, making the decision to go with it can sometimes turn the tide of battle, even if it's a bad call. Because skill brackets exist and things change. So having coordination versus no coordination sometimes just simply wins the fight beyond mechanics. And comms is also something where you can communicate what you're hearing, what you're seeing from the kill feed, from hitting tab, from hitting sounds, hearing sounds rather, and using the chevrons where people are are at, helping them maneuver and saying, hey, so and so doesn't have their comms turned on. So all we're going to do with all of us that do have comms is we're going to follow this person. Anytime they do something, we're going to go with them because they can't hear us. That's something that I've done a couple times that I actually ended up winning us a couple games, or at least getting out a draw. So we didn't lose.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get into the battles themselves. Now that we've talked about some of the tools that you can use to really be aware of what is happening, gather all of the information, and hopefully you're developing skills to use these tools to your advantage, let's move to the actual application of them. I kind of broke down different battles. Honestly, there's so many different scenarios that we could stay here for the rest of the year just discussing every little scenario that you could find in a battle. But we've kind of picked a few scenarios that are commonplace, that happen often in battles. And when they happen, there's different ways to react, honestly. And we just wanted to discuss maybe what you should be thinking, maybe how you should react to them. And these are not hard rules by any means. If you're watching the Overwatch League right now, you would know that hard rules in this game barely exist, as some of the teams have shown. But regardless, there are good rules of thumb, and they can maybe help you have a guideline of how to act during the battle. Let's talk about approaching the battle. When you're approaching the team fight, and this is one of the most basic things. When you're approaching the team fight, you should be thinking about a couple different things. One, scouting. Where the hell is the enemy team? Where are their flankers? Where is their Widowmaker? Where is their Mercy? Where are their tanks positioned? You should be asking yourself all of these questions because this will definitely dictate how you should approach. If they have a turret on the right side, does it make more sense to approach the left side where maybe the turret has less visibility on you? If the Mercy or their Zenyatta is hiding in the back left corner, would it make sense to go to the right corner where you have the longest route to him and he has the most range to hit you with his orbs and dodge your damage? Does going through the middle route make sense? Do they have a wall of shields in that middle segment that your team composition might have a hard time going against? Is it better to maybe spread around and flank through the back? Also, more importantly, can you hear or detect any flankers? Can you hear any tracer roaming around you? Or can you see any Genji jumping up and down? Or a Widow kind of trying to get behind you? Or a Winston that maybe is out of position waiting for a leap? Can you detect any of these threats before you're even close to the battle? Because if you detect them and you're able to deal with them before the battle even starts, guess what? You're already at a huge advantage over here. So I think that these are important things. Sometimes people kind of AFK when they're approaching the battle, when they're coming out of spawn and they're meeting up with the team. They're not asking themselves these questions. And then when they get to the choke point, the first thing that they think is, okay, guys, what do we do? What's the call? Do we go right? Do we go left? And usually the call is left, 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 left. But left has no meaning behind it. Nobody thought, why are we going left? Turns out left is where they have all of their turrets and the heaviest defense. Maybe Junkrat is spamming on the left. So left actually makes no sense. But because somebody shouted it at the beginning of the battle when they got to the choke point just to get things going, that's where you decided to go, and you probably got destroyed or something. And all of your team can be thinking about these things. And it only takes one person to be, guys, let's go left and try to get the Torbjorn turret before we approach the battle. Boom. You got a plan.
Specific information as well and concrete directions.
Yeah. You want to add anything
the battle
here?
Also has overlap with your team, like how your team is approaching, what your team composition is. A lot of that can determine how you can approach certain things and to the speed by which you can do it. A lot of times I've seen teams that are yelling in silver and gold matches that I've played on either of my accounts. with my friends or by myself. I've gotten yelled at. I've also had teammates flaming other teammates for playing Tracer or Soldier or Reaper, where they're playing a split path, where one of the members goes one way and the other 5 go another way and engage, and they're yelling at the other person for not engaging with them or engaging from the same spot. And it turns out that the flanker's decision was proper. So there, excuse me, it happens when people don't really understand how flankers are played or understanding how that team is actually needs to be doing the fighting in the first place. And occasionally you have people that are doing the flank on the wrong way. So you have a big mix up of people doing something very poorly, skill disparities, and also just people making the right decisions and not liking what they're doing. So you have to keep those things in mind when you're approaching a fight.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to the next one. What if you're approaching the fight and you lose a player as you're approaching the fight? Before everything breaks loose, before your tanks clash in the front line, before the heat of the battle really starts, somebody gets picked. And this happens all the time. I'm sure that anyone who's played in Overwatch at least one game has seen this happen. Approaching the point, somebody gets killed. What do? I think that the common sense is, okay, if you're at a good enough distance from the point and nothing seems to be close to getting engaged, the best thing that you can do is back up, not show yourself, don't give them any ults, don't risk losing more people, because that is exactly what the defense wants, or the attack if they get the upper hand on you somehow. But that's the common sense way, right? If you're approaching the battle, hide, don't do anything else. Wait until the other person responds, bring him back. There's a couple things that you can do also while this is happening. If you have characters like Lucio, for example, he can be a great character to come back to the point and taxi them, in quotations, how people like to call it, back to the team, where he can use his speed boost to cut the time it takes for the other person to rejoin. You can also do things like your Tracer or your Pharah might go back so your Mercy can fly to them real quick and reach the battle a little sooner. Pretty much, you want to help in any way you can for that teammate that just got picked to get back to the battle sooner, and you want to reduce any chances of losing any other teammates before the fight. Another thing that you can do in this moment is, if somebody gets picked as they're approaching the point, you should really ask yourself, where did they get picked and by who? Was it a Widowmaker that is safely in their backline and there's nothing that we can do about it? Or was it a Genji or a Tracer that was flanking and they're still roaming around in their backline? Because if that is the case, it is the responsibility of the team to hunt this Tracer down, not only because it's your responsibility to avenge your teammates and their honor, it is also a great play to be able to hunt down the other person and even out the terms. If you're able to do this in a timely manner, you could even have the advantage once your teammate responds, especially if your Lucio decided to go back and taxi him. Now the Tracer's dead and you have a small window of opportunity to engage on that point, or the Genji's dead, or sometimes he's even like a bear catch.
Requires a strong understanding of spawn advantage.
Spawn advantage, and it also requires your teammates to hopefully be paying attention to the kill feed so that they can see, wow, or Mercy or whoever got killed by Tracer, which means they have to be behind us, which means I should stop running to the point at this moment and deal with this problem in my backline, regroup, and then continue going. Last thing I want to say here too is there are a few instances where losing a person at the beginning of the fight shouldn't stop you at all and should mean nothing. And mainly that is when timing's running out. If you don't have a lot of time left, there's just no point in you waiting for your teammate to respond, and the best bet that you can do is that he'll join you guys in the middle of the battle. Because the fight is not lost 5v6. Losing a member as you're approaching the battle does minimize your chances of winning. Just sheer mathematically, you have less chances of killing people. But that doesn't mean that you can't win the battle. Overwatch, a battle can be won by one person or two people at the right time. As long as you're engaging, coordinated, and in a good way, one person can turn the title battle in this place. So that's a little caveat over here. That every time you lose a person, you have to back off, and that is gonna take us to our next one. Unless you want to add anything here, Rob.
Yeah, I think I want to add something before we go to the next one. This is very contingent on a lot of factors, but if you do lose somebody early in a fight, it just means that the enemy team basically got it just before the fight starts rather than in the middle of the fight. So you have to look at it that way, as if it's the approach death is different than before the fight death, and also slightly different than a mid-fight death, okay? Just because somebody's first, it doesn't always mean that they're the highest priority target and they did die. A lot of times, some teams will bait people into killing the Reinhardt or the Roadhog first, just so the Valkyrie can be popped, and or a team can take advantage of deleting a large target rather than the right target. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've lost the fight.
Right.
Additionally, before I let you jump back in, additionally, what you're going to want to look for is when you do these things, you want to consider the call out of making sure that nobody uses or burns an ultimate for the sake of your team gaining ultimates for the next fight. Because ideally, let's say you go into the fight 5v6 right as soon as you start, that someone of your guys dies and the rest of your team doesn't have ultimates, but you know the other team has probably one or two based off of, a couple of engagements prior. So you get them to burn a Transcendence or burn a Valkyrie or burn a Roadhog ult or burn something. Then you've traded a push and some time for some ultimates. And then you can go into the next fight and actually win. And this is effectively called this is a variation of what's called dry pushing. Dry pushing just means you're not spending a ultimate on something, or you're not spending any of your resources in order to gain an advantage. You're basically gaining
Any of your
advantage for the
major
next one.
resources. Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
no, that's exactly what this next point is all about. Losing a player as the fight starts. And this is not what we just talked about. What we just talked about is losing a player before the fight even starts, right? This is as you're approaching, before maybe you cross the choke point or before the real gunfire breaks loose. But as the gunfire breaks loose, there's always going to be a first blood, right? There's always going to be a person
Right.
who dies first. And if your team is just first blood, if your team loses the first person, or I think I should say that backwards. Regardless, if your team loses the first person, there are a few things that you should keep in mind. One, have you committed? Yeah, who is it? Who is it? First of all, is he super vital? If he's your main tank or he's your mercy, for example, that's a huge
Your
loss,
entire
right?
approach needs to change.
Yeah, if one of those picks happens, then your odds of losing or being able to capture a point or defending a point greatly decrease, because those heroes are kind of like pillars to keeping that defense or attack alive. But maybe the player that you lost is your Tracer, which you lose a fair bit of gunpowder. But at the end of the day, Tracer, out of all the heroes, gets back into the fight the fastest. And your loss might not be... Yeah, or Soldier. So your loss might not be as significant because maybe you're not relying on her for keeping the rest of your team alive. You're relying on her for damage, but you can still pull off a lot of things. And your other DPS can still do things like clutch it out or get a few picks here and there immediately after the battle. Another thing that you really have to keep in mind is that sometimes to get a kill, resources have to be spent. So maybe getting that Mercy killed actually spent a lot of resources for the opposing team, right? A lot of shields, a lot of Zarya shields were thrown out, hooks were thrown out, all the blinks of the Tracer were expensed. Maybe their Soldier fired the Helix rocket. And I'm not even talking about ultimates yet. I'm just talking about just general abilities.
Just cooldowns.
Yeah, just cooldowns that heroes have to be expended to get that kill. That means that the enemy team is at a vulnerable spot. And you can see it in many different ways, right? If your team can get a bunch of kills on key players right after that because of the cooldowns that have been expended, then the fight might turn into your favor, even though they got the first kill. And this is something to keep in mind. But if on the other hand, they get a kill that is very significant, your Reinhardt died, your Mercy died, something that you're like, ooh, this is going to be an uphill battle from here. What you said makes more sense. Doing a dry push, a push where you're trying to spend the least amount of huge resources like ultimates. You're not trying to spend any of them or a minimal amount, only enough to maybe draw out big ultimates from your team, right?
If your pulse bomb draws a Valkyrie, then you're on top because you've pulled a support ultimate that can flip a fight versus just something you can charge very, very efficiently with Tracer.
Or your Genji pulls his Dragon Blade and forces Zenyatta to use Transcendence. Fair trade, especially if you know you have a Graviton ready for the next fight. So you at this point, if you lose the player as you're initially going into the fight, it's usually not worth it backing out unless all of your team has an easy way of escaping. But honestly, at this point, your team is kind of committed, and you lose more by trying to disengage than by trying to play it out and just run the fight as fast as you can. Because you never know. You might still get the edge on this fight. You might still be able to snowball this. And once you're winning, you might find yourself, hey, we actually are winning this fight and our ult economy is up. Maybe we can use one ult to keep it going or even take the point at this point.
And even a side note here, don't be the guy in comms that dies first and just whines about it. Try to watch the kill feed, see how you died on the replay or skip the replay and try to coach your teammates like, hey, soldiers on the left of you, or Orisa, Tracer's right behind you, or hey, let's try to push the Valkyrie here and res our Roadhog instead of me. You know, these are the type of things you can take advantage of comms even when you're not in the fight. You can actually assist the team as a coach or as a separate vision. Maybe you get that little bit of an advantage going in third person. There's the other side of this too is this is the key difference between losing a player right before the fight starts, losing a player right as the fight is about to start, and also losing a player during the fight as first blood. You can still flip a fight and not actually run a dry push, but just do something where you realize if these two people are clumped together and you have a certain thing like your attack visor or your barrage that you can kill 2 for 1 and they won't be able to come back. So you go down in 4 and make the fight 4v4, even though you didn't get first blood. You can make that fight even by just trading your life. You can do a lot of things like this. And also, keep in mind as a support, especially when you die first, when you're playing a support and one of your teammates dies first, this means you have one less target you have to worry about healing. So you actually have a hyper ability of focus on maintaining less health bars. And also if you're playing, especially if you're playing like a Mercy or Lucio, you have to worry about that one less player on your team of maintaining your aura or your healing and damage. And you can narrow down your options of which heroes you need to damage. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen people, even in Overwatch League, not damage boosting people that should be being damage boosted rather than being healed. I've seen EVA comment on people not damage boosting divas while they're using their ultimate so they can absolutely guarantee that targets die even if they're at their max range. You see people like this, even when Reinhardt has his shield up and he's swinging his hammer. A lot of times damage boosting Ryan is better because especially if you can build up, you get ultimate charge so fast with confirming kills with damage boost. You guys have no idea. Or even getting offensive assists with Zenyatta orbs. Like just knowing what your teammates are hitting and functioning your orbs based off of what they're hitting and then you can adjust your play to your teammates is a lot better than just saying, I'm going to shoot this person, so that's who gets the Discord. From a support's point of view, that's how I would approach this, especially even on Moira too, because Moira's more zone oriented like Lucio than Mercy and Zenyatta. But I belabor the point.
No. That's great information. Another thing I want to say too is you want to be aggressive and you want to be decisive when you choose to do your attacks, whether you're on defense or attack. And when I say attack is when you choose to engage your battles and you're like, okay, this is going to go down. You want to be decisive and you want to be aggressive. usually you want to be the person who makes the move first. Even if you're on defense, it just takes a different kind of discipline and mentality. You're usually waiting for the attacking team to make the first move, but as you're seeing them make the first move, you want to then make your move accordingly
Mm,
right after you
yeah.
see it, if that makes any sense, right? You don't want to be the
Yeah, I
person,
follow.
you don't want to be the team that receives the ultimates first. You know what I mean? Even if you're the defending team and you know you have Graviton, for example, you want to be the person firing that Graviton right as they're coming in before they're able to shatter you or before they're able to EMP you, take all of your shields away, and no Graviton for you, kind of thing. If you're not decisive with this sort of action, then you're putting yourself at a sort of a disadvantage there, because the person who is decisive will have the upper hand, will have the first say in that battle. And also, being aggressive once you're in the battle itself is pretty important for most heroes, especially for your tanks and DPS. Um, Supports can be a little different. Lucio can sometimes be very aggressive. Zenyatta can sometimes be very aggressive. Even Mercy with Valkyrie can sometimes be quite the aggressive support. But what I mean by aggressive is like go in and get in their faces. Don't linger around the choke point and like sprinkle them with a little bit of your bullets. No, man, like really get in there. Use obviously your optimal range for your hero, but don't doubt it. Believe in yourself. Go dive for that kill. Throw your abilities. Even if you miss, you just have to do it, because at the end of the day, even if you die, you will have contributed something, and your aggressiveness will have open opportunities for your other teammates. And anyone can win the battle. That is the beauty of Overwatch. It doesn't have to be your Genji, it doesn't have to be your Tracer, it doesn't have to be like your star player. It could be your support player that just happened to be able to kill everyone at the end of the battle, because all of the cooldowns were expended. The enemy team had no diva mech, they had no more shields, they had no more ultimates, because all of your team was so aggressive that they had to blow everything, and then the last guy just came in and cleaned up and you still won this battle. So that's kind of
Especially
like,
when you're down, you're down a player, you have higher risk is innate in how you need to be approaching the fight at that point. If that makes sense. Like taking more risks will let you have a higher payoff, especially when you're enabled to do so. Being safe when you're down 5v6 is not going to help. A lot of times you can afford to be safe when you're up, especially when you're defending, but it's a lot more difficult when you're not in those shoes. And additionally, the best part of high risk plays is knowing whether or not they're worth it, especially if you're recording your games, because that gives you a very clear-cut a moment that you can take a mental note and say, okay, I'm making the decision to make a higher risk play here, and I'm going to try to make a mental note of this. And then you go back into the game, rewatch it, or you watch how you died in that instance. Maybe you use that game as something you get coached with from a friend and say, okay, what do you think about this play? Because this is where I took a note that I took a high-risk play, and if it paid off or not, still could be the wrong decision. Even if it pays off. I've had moments like this where I'm a flanking Zenyatta and I get 2 picks and it was still the wrong decision, because if I was playing in Diamond or if I was playing in Masters, there is no way that I could peek that Widow. I would be dead 100% of the time. Something like that.
let's talk about high risk plays, because this is another part of the battle. And the high risk plays tend to be the flashy plays that look impressive, that sometimes make it to play of the game or Reddit things. But high risk versus high reward plays can also cost you the game right then and there very easily. So, in my opinion, they should be used very sparingly, and you should be very mindful of when you are using them, because you can really set your team on the back foot if you are not cautious or conscious about how you're using, especially your ultimates. Let's give a few examples of high risk, high reward plays. Let's say you engage the battle, your team dies, 4 of your teammate dies, and you're left with your Lucio, maybe your Genji, and you have your Dragon Blade, and there's 4 enemy team members. High risk, high reward play would be using your Dragon Blade right here and going for the quadruple kill and hoping that you get all of them and you cap the point. Chances or odds are you're going to use that Dragon Blade and you're going to get immediately killed by all the other 4 people. But, if you're Shadowburn or a decent Genji, you could maybe clutch it. You could maybe clutch it. This happens all the time, right? A Genji kills 4 people with his Dragon Blade. It's not unheard of, and it happens at almost all ranks. But what happens if you don't kill those 4 people, and then you and the Lucio die? Instead of maybe you both could have used the speed boost to back up, then come back with your team, and then you would have done the Dragon Blade when you have your entire enemy team, maybe increasing your odds of winning the team battle and winning the point for your team. So that's kind of my point with high risk, high reward plays. You could clutch it out. You could win the point right there and there for your team. But if you lose it, now your team is on the back foot. Now you don't have that ultimate. Now when you approach the point again, you're not going to have that edge.
That resource.
You don't have that edge of the enemy team. You're going to be hoping somebody else has it. So it's kind of like that risky thing. Another high risk, high reward play is Zenyatta transcending, for example, by himself.
Right. I think you actually can see the key moment of this in the Shanghai versus Seoul game. Shanghai ended up winning one of their maps on... I'm sorry. Yeah. I think I don't remember what map it was, but I remember specifically that Seoul used 4 or 5 ultimates just to capture a point or maintain something, even in a game that they may have lost. They lost that particular round on Koth or something because they spent a bazillion of their ultimates just to maintain it or just to capture the point. And Shanghai is doing everything in their power to defend as long as they can, stall out the point as long as they can, and expend 0 ultimates. And they had such a huge advantage that now not only is Seoul cap the point and Shanghai has to engage, but Shanghai has 5 ultimates of resource where they only have 10% or 5% left of the point. They can literally use all 5 of their ultimates, not even in a coordinated fashion, wipe out the entire enemy team, and just that cost them the game because they didn't efficiently use their high ranking resources.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting in the chat that this is the Dorado match, and I think you're right. I think they committed all of their resources to pushing the cart on stage 2. They got it. They're pushing to stage 3, and they're in overtime on the payload, and then Shanghai comes in, sweeps them all out, and that's GG. It was pretty nutty.
There you go.
So
another example of a high risk, high reward play that might not be as obvious, and from the Overwatch League as well. LA Valiant Soon, their Tracer player, French player, amazing at Tracer. On Junkertown, I think it was the first week of the Overwatch League, he abandons his team on the last fight and decides to go back cap the cart, basically leaving his entire team without his DPS, which is huge because he is one of the best tracers in the world. So not having him damaging players with you, it's a huge loss in your firepower. Mm-hmm. But the team decides that this is the best idea that they can do. They will try to stall out the defending team with their attack for as much as possible, and Soon just goes to the payload, stays in it, and backcaps it, winning them the point, completely devastating Dallas Fuel. They didn't even have to win the battle, but they decided to gimp it themselves to have that less DPS on the battle, but with the caveat that they could cheese it out and have a high risk, high reward play. Let's lose our DPS and maybe win out the map like that. And you actually saw SEOUL try to do this against the New York Excelsior on Eichenwald, where they send Munchkin to try to backcap the payload. Yeah. But unfortunately, New York won that fight just way too soon, and they were able to realize what was happening and stopped him in his tracks. But hey, it's a valid play, especially once the timer is running out and the enemy team or the defending team is super busy checking, overtime and making sure that all of you guys are dead, sort of thing.
Couldn't agree more. I think we got to keep moving, though. We are running a little long, and this is probably going to be where we end up closing the show, yeah?
Yeah,
And
that
we'll
sounds
go
good
to
to
the
me.
news.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we'll close the topic, and then we'll move on to some news updates for you.
Hopefully you guys
So the
really
first thing-
enjoyed this topic, and if you guys have any feedback to give to it, please feel free. It's a topic that we want to, or not specifically this topic, but a segment that we want to keep doing. Daily strategy talk. If you guys have any topics that you would particularly like us to discuss, like this one, maybe some that are more nuanced, it can be hero specific, it can be map specific. But yeah, these segments we want to do, like we said, in between going deeps and map masteries and our interviews when it's just Rob and me, just hanging out by ourselves and talking strategy, brewing stuff in the lab. Let us know.
Absolutely. So the Blue Post and news this week is a little update about Blizzard World. Not only is it available for you to play in quick play in an arcade, but it is not going to be in competitive mode until Season 9. And there are rumors, actually, if you follow Overwatch League, that in the next map pool, Blizzard World is kind of talked under the table as potentially being a part of the new map pool. So you may be seeing a lot more of this lately. The next thing is there is a developer update that was pushed out to their YouTube page on community topics. The quick rundown here is that, including a couple blue posts as a follow-up to this, the toxicity update came around saying that there are 17% more players being actioned and 20% more players filing reports against others. Actioning some players through being proactive in this is looking through, the Blizzard team is actually looking through toxic behaviors on platforms like YouTube and other like things, and how they are filing some cases even before players can get reports filed, is just by maintaining some public personas on other platforms like this. Additionally, the Mercy and Junkrat changes are still slated for next patch, and with the promise that verbatim from Kaplan basically saying if Mercy is too far away from the roster of being where they think she should be, she will be brought back up. So keep that in mind, as he states this with a lot of people very concerned with Mercy and also very hated on Mercy. So you will see her still in the game. She's not being deleted. There's no plans to getting rid of her or her kit, but rather trying to make sure that she's balanced.
I personally think this is a very funny statement that he had to add this there, because to me, this is acknowledging the sheer power that the Mercy mains have, or the Mercy lovers. Everyone who loves Mercy. Mercy is such an iconic character in Overwatch that I think them as developers are a little bit afraid to mess her up and not make her good. I think that in the back of their heads, they just don't want to do that because they know how much the community loves it and how many players like Mercy as a hero. As much as all the hate that is out there, especially in the competitive world, I think that's where the most of the Mercy hate comes from. But when you go to other communities, other players, Mercy is one of the most loved heroes. Mercy is one of the heroes that allows players that are not traditionally great at first-person shooters, to be able to play this game and enjoy it like other people. It's just a hero that plays so differently from a pure aim hero while still providing so much damage. So I don't know. I think that they realize this and they don't want to mess her up. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, there's a thin line with what they can do to make her approachable and also make her a little bit have some more range within how far you can take the hero. A lot of the Overwatch League players, I know that Banny mentioned on Houston Outlaws interview about Mercy that he was just kind of sick of playing the same style of play and not really feeling like there's much variation with what he can do on the hero, and it feels very limiting with some of the approaches that you have with the hero, and just wanting a few more tools or a few things that you can kind of do to mix things up. I can see them rolling something out like that in long term, but for now, the dominance of the hero is becoming the big issue, and this for the same reasons they're giving some damage fall off to Junkrat, and also saying that this could potentially bring him down as far as how necessary he feels for players. Personally, I feel like the change just makes Junkrat a little bit more focused on accurate play and focused on dealing with where his optimal range is and not making him overstep his bounds, being able to deal with literally anything right now, which is kind of the big issue. and having a lot of mobility on top of that makes it too much. So with this, they're slating this for the next patch. Additionally, they are saying that in the back end, they are currently working on ideas and developing some things in the iterations, as well as even getting some things to testing, which they didn't mention which ones were in which stages. But Hanzo, May, Symmetra, Sombra, and Doomfist are all looking at major and minor tweaks accordingly. Last up is there is a final in-depth explanation for the movement update that Geoff Goodman put on the post on the forums, which I'll link in the show notes if you want to check it out. It's a good read. And last, there is a very large update to the known bugs page, and there's so many problems still with Moira. So I'm hoping that they can figure out a lot of these Moira bug updates, and hopefully that the known bugs will be rolled out along the same time as the Mercy Junkrat changes hit live. Final things here to wrap up the show. We got a lot of iTunes reviews this week, so special thanks to you guys over at iTunes. We got, I think, 7 iTunes reviews. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, scorching iTunes reviews this week. Thank you guys so much. J Beige from US, Vixo from UK, Demi0430 from USA, the 7th Avatar USA, Kataran USA, Mike Goobs from USA, and Dan Danster from UK. Thank you guys so much for your iTunes reviews. And even from 7th Avatar, we took your feedback very well this week. We talked about it in the pre-show, and we're going to be looking to work on your feedback. So we really appreciate that. It's the best way to support the show besides just listening. So thank you for leaving those iTunes reviews. You can head over to our iTunes page and leave us a iTunes review that way and give us some feedback on what you think about the show.
Thank you so much, guys. We really like reading the iTunes reviews. They keep us honest. They let us know how we're doing, and we try to read all of them. We really like taking the feedback in, and we use them to improve. We use them to guide the show. So if you guys have any suggestions, if you guys have anything pressing that you want to get off of your chest, and let us know, you can send us definitely a review. You can almost guarantee that we will read it, as well as you can also email the show.
If you guys want to be a part of the game nights, they're generally on the end of each month on a Friday night. That's typical of our show. And additionally, if you want to find the Discord, it's discord.me/OmnicLab in your browser. Don't try to type it into the Discord client because it will not work. If you want to find the show, the best way to find it is go to omniclab.com/links. You can find all the links to anything you want. You can find our Twitter page, our Facebook page, our Patreon page, YouTube, Twitch, and our merch store. If you're looking for a new hoodie or a new t-shirt or even a coffee mug, you can find those on our website. If you want to send us some more feedback, you can find us in our Discord and on our email, omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. That's going to do it for 88 in our first episode of Strat Brewing. We're excited to bring this to you, and let us know what you think on our email and the Discord channels. Andres, where can people find you?
If you want to look me up on the interwebs, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And you can also find me talking Overwatch League on the SEOUL Recap, or sister show, with Justin and Bob, good pals of mine and of Rob, and the show in general, just good pals. Check us out over there discussing.
You guys got a new member this week.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel so bad now. And now we have Melarina joining us too. First female presence in the SEOUL Recap. We're very excited to have her. So if you guys want to stay in touch with Overwatch League news, matches, results, all of the stuff, we're talking all of the games, we're making predictions, and we want to include that community as well. So that's a great forum to be a part of if you guys are interested in the Overwatch League.
And just a little sneak peek, a little special news for you guys on Omnic Lab. I've been working with Justin, working with Andres. We're going to maybe get on the show for me on a couple times here and there in the future. So I'm looking forward to talking some more Overwatch League outside of the Discord. You can see me and Switch talking it up with our power rankings almost daily. So I'm still watching it. I still love the stuff, but scheduling is tough with you West Coasters. Let me tell you. If you guys want to find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram with the tag NotRob. If you like Hearthstone, we had a special guest talking about a brand new tempo style druid list with my man Wicked Good, aka Steve Lubitz, on our podcast this week. I'll be editing that tonight and tomorrow. So special thanks to him for guesting on it. And it was actually Grant Gould's 1-year anniversary this week for being a part of the show since Andrew left. So it's a really, really special time. It's about a 2-hour extravaganza talking about the new rank changes coming in next month. So you guys are not going to miss it if you like Hearthstone. Last up, I'll mention this as just a quick note, but I have been playing Subnautica a lot lately. It's a brand new game. Like Minecraft, it's like a underwater exploration Minecraft style, but there's a little bit of story exploration.
It looks pretty cool.
It's very interesting. If you guys want to see some more footage, I highly recommend my man Fenner, Fenner. He's an Australian streamer for Overwatch and also has been playing it. And the poor guy got me hooked, and I can't stop. I played it for so much time after I got back from the dinner after the game night, and it is every bit of anxiety and fear that you have when you see your first creeper, or they have these gigantic sea monsters that are just terrifying. But it's really, really cool. There's aliens, there's water, there is crafting, and you guys can't miss it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I won't belabor this episode any longer. We'll see you guys next week. And remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys on the lab next week, hopefully with a special guest doing another map guide. We'll see you then. Bye.
Because of technical difficulties, we have no closing music. I apologize. I will try to do my best impression of Zenyatta. I have nothing more to teach you. What is it that he says afterwards?
The rest you must learn for yourself.
The rest you must learn for yourself. I couldn't even do that, guys. Messed that one up.
Zen main confirmed.
Love y'all. Love y'all. Hopefully you guys can picture the sounds in your head. We've played them many, many times.
Anyone say peanut butter?
Y'all have a good night. I can't believe we actually had so many listeners.